How did you find me? How did,
Um, I found you on Instagram, just doing some general searches.
and what was it about my Instagram that was interesting to you?
I think a lot of it was the motivational aspects of it, and um, being able to see that you're trying to help out people, and I think that's something that's just from my opinion that's missing in some of things in society now.
Cool. Okay. Yeah.
Whoop, sorry, dropped the phone. Let me just try to hold it there. Okay. So go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Kiki Hurwitt, and I am a 53-year-old athlete. And I would say discovered bodybuilding and nutrition about a little over 2 years ago, on the heels of being diagnosed with prediabetes and very high cholesterol, and needed to make some pretty serious changes in my life.
I can understand that. Yeah. As far as the diabetes part and trying to right the wrong, so to speak, that create that kind of thing, for us, and it can be tough.
It was a real eye opener to me in sort of this midlife, having spent 25 years in a corporate career, that I found myself really needed to make some major life health changes, and quickly. Both my parents were diabetic in their late 40s for the rest of their lives, and I would say died prematurely as, results of comorbidities from their diabetes diagnosis. So I was very motivated to find some solutions that were not medical intervention. Um, Having grown up in a family with two parents with diabetes, I would open the refrigerator and see bottles of insulin and needles on the counter, and just knew that that was not something I wanted for myself, and I knew there had to be a different way. So I went down a pretty deep rabbit hole on Instagram when I found, now my dear friend, trained with Joan McDonald, who's in her 70s, and in her early 70s had been faced with a number of medical issues, and had overcome all of those through weightlifting and nutrition. And I absolutely needed to know everything that she was doing. And that led me to her daughter, who is now my coach and has changed my life totally.
How hard was it to make that transition? Because I know for a lot of us, cutting out sugars and trying to eat the healthiest we can possibly do, especially with the way things are now with inflation and things like that, it can be difficult, especially like in my case where uh, I'm on that road to try to get healthier and get in better shape. When you have a house full of people that probably don't generally see the same vision that you do as far as getting healthy, it makes it kind of difficult, especially, speaking from experience.
Totally. I mean, that's a really valid point. My my eating habits, as you can imagine, were not aligned with a healthy body, right? I'm really fortunate in the sense that my family was so supportive. My husband was so supportive. My daughter, who's 28, almost 29, my stepdaughter, happens to be an online fitness trainer. Very just incredible wealth of knowledge for me, and she helped me to start down the fitness path. Highly recommended, for me to get going on macro counting and tracking. And I was really resistant to it. It felt too heavy. It felt too hard. Why do I have to do this? So I resisted it for a long time. And I lost some weight just through the fitness aspect, moving my body more. trying to be mindful of what I was eating without tracking macros. But I will tell you this, when I started working with my coach now, when I was accepted into the Wonder Woman's program, it was a requirement to track macros. And when I started doing that, everything came into alignment for me because I finally understood the composition of the food I was putting in my body. So I understood, I had actual scientific evidence to support if I ate sugar, if I ate bread, and not, there's nothing wrong with bread and sugar. I don't mean to demonize those things, but what I had to learn was what was right for my body, my specific frame, my specific goals in the gym, with learning to lift heavy, with body recomposition, all of those things, with being the age I am and going through menopause, those were issues too. So taking all of that into account and really understanding what was right for me was life changing. So the macro game was pretty important in my transformation. Yeah.
And see, that's amazing because that is not only trying to change your intake as far as your nutrition aspect, but that's also a mental thing too.
Massively. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Joshua. I think none of the what I've been able to achieve in the gym and in changing my life, and most importantly, my health markers, right? I am, for anybody listening to this, I'm no longer pre-diabetic. My cholesterol is in its normal range. All my other markers are in healthy range, and I'm so grateful for that. Work on why I wanted this and really develop daily habits that were going to support a future healthy version of me. None of this would have worked. So, and I'm grateful to my coach because she really pushed us to get outside of our comfort zones and look at the mental side of this, the mindset part of it, to really develop the habits that we needed to support our future goals.
And I think for me, I've talked to some other people in the fitness industry, and it's just like, it's more mind over matter, so to speak, where you gotta want it, and you can tell yourself you want it, but until you go through it and try to do it, I mean, it does get very difficult to try to stay on that track and try to create a better version of yourself.
It does. Look, I'm not here to say any of that is easy. I will be the first to tell you there were numerous days of just, crying and in the gym crying. Oh my God. Um, just so uncomfortable with why do I have to do this? But the reality was where I was in the body I was living in, so unhealthy, I had to change. And so I think the reality is this. I think where I was became so painful that I was willing to get uncomfortable to then be comfortable in a future version of myself.
Exactly, and that's
And that
well
did
said
not happen
because
overnight.
yeah, and that's well said because you got to make yourself uncomfortable in anything that you do to be a success at anything, whether it's small or big life achievements.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it was always the discomfort that I was trying to avoid in my past life. I would numb with, and I talk about this very openly on my Instagram page. My relationship with alcohol had to change. My relationship with food had to change. I was numbing with alcohol all the time. And I know so many of us do. And I don't say that from a place of judgment, but for me personally, it was something I really had to look at and say, is my drinking serving me? And the answer was always no. And so I simply started as an experiment to say, okay, I'm not saying I'll never drink again, but I'm not going to drink today. And then tomorrow, I'm not going to drink tomorrow. And then I'm not going to drink the next day. And I just kept paying attention to how I was feeling, how I was performing in the gym, what I was learning, was I growing? And there were absolutely many times I wanted to retreat to that comfort zone of a bottle of wine. And the more I kind of built the mental muscle around, wait a second, I actually feel better. Wait a second, I'm performing better in the gym. I'm sleeping better. Um, I'm starting to see some physical changes, and I'm definitely feeling emotional changes for the better and all the rest. I felt more balanced. My moods felt more stabilized. And so I just simply kept going and saying, well, I wonder if tomorrow I'll feel the same or better. And I just kept collecting that evidence. And for me, that's how I approached my journey with alcohol. And I'm now a little over 2 years without alcohol. And it's
Nice.
been totally life changing. Yeah. Yeah. And I am one of those people. It's funny, Joshua. Somebody asked me this recently, are you an alcoholic? And I have a hard time with that label, right? I think there's so much negativity around, oh, well, what's wrong with you? And for me personally, and it's something I'll continue to explore in my journey, but I don't identify as an alcoholic. I identify as somebody that struggled with numbing and looking to alcohol and food also to kind of just bury my emotions and not want to look at the uncomfortable stuff that needed to be looked at in order to heal and in order to kind of get to the other side of things and grow.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, it's almost like a coping mechanism, so to speak, and you gotta
Mhm.
get into the mindset of there are other things that you can do to cope with whatever you're going through. It could be walking around the block or going to the gym or just doing something overly constructive other than like you said, with eating and recreational things and things of that nature. It's a mindset kind of thing for sure.
totally, totally. Yeah, and I know it sounds so cliche to say this. I almost cringe saying this, but I literally did have to take it one day at a time.
And
And
there,
now where I am a little over 2 years in, I don't feel like I have to take it a day at a time. I feel really grounded in that decision. And like I said to you a minute ago, I'm not one of those people that says I will never have a drink again, but it's going to have to be a really exceptional experience for me to want to have a glass of wine again. It's not going to be the wine from Trader Joe's. I'm going to need to be in Tuscany or something.
right? And that's I see that as overcoming not so much demons, but overcoming a type of adversity where you're going through certain things, and of course, everybody's got their struggles, and it's all in how we deal
Mhm.
with it. And some people deal with it in phenomenally great ways, and unfortunately, some people don't. And it's I think some of that's not, of course, not only mental, like we touched on, but I think some of that could be people you're surrounded by and your environment. It could be play a part in that
Mm.
too.
Absolutely. Yeah, no question. And I think one thing I get asked quite a bit on Instagram and in the community I'm part of is, did my friend group change as a result of kind of making these other changes in my life, alcohol being one? So, and the answer is yes. Um, and that was really hard for a while. That I love my friends, but some of those friendships have now kind of faded to the background. We're still friends, but we're not in contact as regularly. Um, and that was necessary for me to, I guess I'm going to call it, level up in my own life and um find really kind of come into alignment with the identity I wanted for myself, which was a healthy individual, mind, body, and spirit.
I can see, when you're going through things, whether it be good or bad, you kind of figure out who's on your side and who wants the best for you when you start going through changes, because some people want to
Mhm.
be there at your absolute best, and your real true friends will be there when you're going through your absolute worst.
Totally, totally. And I think what happened for me is I made new friends in this journey. And on my bodybuilding team, I'm part of a team that we've been together for 2 years, and we have literally been in the trenches together through so much stuff that's not just about bodybuilding, it's about life events, whether it's divorce or loss, grief, all kinds of, illness, whatever it is, big life stuff that happens, and supporting each other, and these friendships have gotten really deep really fast because there were no layers of kind of the fluffy niceties. It was just sort of, this was necessary. We were choosing to do this together. And I'm not a group activity person. I tell that to everybody. So when I learned that I was going to be part of a team and we were going to kind of meet regularly and get to know each other, I was like, no, 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 that's not for me. I don't need that. Just teach me how to lift weights and count macros. And I just want to, you know, be a size 4. I want to fit in my jeans again. And then
It's
suddenly it became about everything else other than the size of the jeans I was wearing.
and see when you're in a group that has the same goals as far as where you want to go and you have the same interest, it's easy to be around people like that because I feel like that even if you just met somebody within a certain period of time, if they have the same interests as you do and you the same goals in retrospect that you do, it's easy to open yourself up more than being around people who don't necessarily want the same things or see you as one way and don't want to see you change.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, we were cheering each other on. I mean, the camaraderie is genuine. We have become genuine friends in 2 years. We've gone on a number of girls' trips together. I'm getting ready to go on another one with them. I mean, these ladies have truly become like family. Um, and yeah, it's powerful stuff when you find a community of like-minded people that want to see themselves succeed, but they're also there to see you succeed because your success is their own success. And that's really palpable, really cool and powerful.
Exactly, and I've noticed that in any part of the fitness industry that if you are in that, whether you're a trainer or whether you're getting trained, people will reach out to you and try to help you in the best way they possibly can.
It's so true. So true. And I think for a long time I was really intimidated by the fitness realm. I felt so like, okay, I don't belong here. And I remember the first time I walked into a real bodybuilding gym, right? And we built a gym during COVID in our home in our basement in a room that wasn't being used, kind of cobbled it together and whatnot. It's nothing fancy, but does the job. But as a 50 now 53-year-old woman, I would walk into a bodybuilding gym and feel so intimidated. Like all I knew how to feel comfortable on was, a treadmill or a step climber or something like that. I didn't know how to lift weights. I'd been a cardio queen my whole life. Um, so I got to tell you, there's a lot of confidence building, and stuff that just happens to our identities when we do things that are outside our comfort zone. But what I found that you touched on a second ago is the people in the bodybuilding gym. Like these, I would look at their bodies and be intimidated and like, oh my God, they were the nicest people on the planet. They wanted to help me. There was zero kind of, you don't belong here. No, no, no. I can walk into any one of those places now and feel totally confident how to load the barbell, how to do what I need to do to get my workout in, how to manage the equipment, and that's so empowering. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I think that people, for the most part, who aren't regulars uh, at a gym or are trying to get themselves in better shape, I think that people who go to a gym get a bad rap, so to speak, where the average general public think they might be a little judgmental, which I'd never experienced that. And you know, it, the thing that for me when I was starting to go to the gym to get out of that was really hard for me to get out of rather was the mindset of everybody's watching me, people are judging me, and it's just like, people judge you in everyday life no matter what you do, and not everybody's out to get you, so to speak, and it's hard to get out of that mindset.
It is, yeah. And I think what I learned, Joshua, was my own self-judgment was so much harsher than anything I thought was around me. You know what I mean? Like I was the one that was telling myself I don't belong or I'm X, Y, or Z or whatever labels I put on myself and self-criticism and judgment. And yeah, but it's like flexing a muscle, right? It's like building a muscle. The more I would go to the gym, the more I would put myself in those environments and have the experiences of people being really friendly and really just supportive, the more that just kind of fell away. And now I don't care. Now I can be in any of those places.
Yeah, and it's amazing that um, that people feel that way. I mean, you go into, just for instance, you go to a store and somebody says hi to you, you don't really think twice about it. You just carry on the conversation. But, in
Right.
certain environments, people, I guess, feel like it could be uncomfortable when, some people are there just like you are to better yourself, you know, and
Right.
that's what I think is amazing is the camaraderie there. And if you're there and you show up and you're trying to put in the work to be a better version of yourself, that people in that industry will do whatever they can to help you out.
100%. Yeah. Because I think everybody, well, my experience has been anybody that is in the gym and doing that work, they were once in my shoes. And now I feel it's incumbent upon me to embrace and be kind to anybody else that's new to this process too. I want to see people succeed. And I'm really passionate about working with women that are in my age category that probably feel like I did, where there's an intimidation factor about starting something new, learning something new. It's intimidating. Learning macros and tracking macros felt like learning a new language. And it wasn't easy for me. And now it's total freedom. I love it. I eat everything and I just know what the right proportions and composition of food needs to be to give me the best results. Feeling better, looking better, all of it.
Yeah, and it's amazing to kind of see that when you change, even if you just change your nutrition and what you're consuming, and how much better you'll feel and how much better you look just by doing that alone.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Yeah, those
you
changes come
know,
along pretty quickly.
yeah, and it's and just from experience, I can say that when you start eating healthier, when you start changing your mindset of okay, well, I don't need this, or put it like you say, like you said earlier, put it off to the next day and then see how things are, and then keep putting it off, day by day. You eventually get to the point where you realize I didn't really need that. That was just something that I
Right.
was used to.
Totally. Totally. And I tell, you know, I work with a few women. I have a coaching practice that I work on mindset with women. And one of my big principles is we need to gather evidence because oftentimes our belief systems will not shift until we have actual evidence because then it's undeniable, right? If I track my food for, 6 weeks straight, and I know without a question of a doubt, if I'm totally honest with myself and I have the data, I know my calories have been between this and this. And I know if I'm tracking my weight every day on the scale, my waist measurement, my thigh measurement, my hip measurement, and I'm working out, I'm collecting all of this data together. I know what the result is. So then it's irrefutable. So
Exactly.
I think it's so important to just collect the evidence and ask ourselves, how am I feeling? Is this the result I want? Is it moving me in the direction that I want? That's everything.
Exactly.
Evidence.
So as far as your training practice, what is that like in retrospect of how do you go about helping people change their mindset while getting healthy and being able to be more active?
Yeah, so I just want to separate the two. I don't do any fitness training, but
Hmm.
my clients, I do encourage and require actually for them to have some kind of regimented program that they're adhering to, whether it's with a personal trainer of their choice, whether it's through an app, a program of some kind that they are moving their bodies, challenging their bodies to grow and change. That's a requirement. But the core of the work that I do with women is a very small group of women because I like to kind of keep these very customized programs for each individual. Is really to work on building sustainable habits that will serve them in the goals that they specifically want to achieve forever. So we work very closely on understanding what their current habits are, what that identity is that they want to have for themselves. Who is that future version of themselves? Is it a healthier version? Is it a, and it can be whatever that individual wants. They want to get the promotion at work. They want, to fit in a size 2 for their wedding day, whatever it is, right? Most of my women come to me wanting to totally shift their identities in midlife to self care and really, um, shifting their identity from having been mom or a corporate life, a corporate executive or whatever, um, to really discovering who they are for themselves for maybe the first time in a really long time or ever. So we work on building habits, that fit into their daily routine that they can build on, and really getting those grounded and anchored into their lives so that they can just embrace that new identity that just shows up when they change those habits.
See, I think the mental aspect is it's a lot harder to change, especially for some people. So I think that in retrospect is the most important thing because without that, you can train all you want and try to change all you want, but until you change the way you think, it's not going to stay consistent.
100%. And I think you nailed it on the head, Joshua. We live in a quick fix society. We just do. Our media is constantly badgering us with the next diet, or, you know, if you're not diabetic, maybe you could take Ozempic to drop the weight, or you could, there's all kinds of stuff, right? And we are so mired with, I have to see a certain number on the scale versus I want to change this habit that I have, and really doing the uncomfortable work to recognize the habits and the belief systems that we have about ourselves that need to be changing. And then the body just follows along.
Exactly.
It's inevitable that if we change the habit, the physical result is going to appear. It might not be on my crazy timeline that I have been taught by society needs to be next week. It might be 6 months from now, but it is inevitable that if I keep showing up every day, period, if I just do the work, that will happen. It will come.
Yes.
The
Yeah. I
only way you
mean,
fix it is if you quit.
yeah. I mean, success is in the job that you're avoiding to get done, whether that be in business, in personal
Totally.
life. You just gotta get up, put your boots on, and go to it. I mean, if it were easy, we'd all be in great shape.
But we need to build systems that are sustainable. And I think for
Exactly.
me personally, speaking from my experience, my systems were not supporting a healthy body or a healthy mind. I had really poor systems in place, and that's what had to change.
And see, that's why I think that's such a big part is the mental aspect of it because you know, especially in today's society where people get down on themselves because of something that had happened or something someone said to them, or whatever the case is,
Mhm.
you just gotta not worry about what other people are doing, what other people think of you, and just try to be the best you can be, and only you can judge what that is for you.
Mhm. That's right. That's right. There's no shoulds in this, but getting
Exactly.
really clear and honest about this that we want for ourselves, we have to get really clear about. Mhm.
Exactly. And it's hard work, but it's
It
like
is.
going into a profession and starting a career and going, I want to be here. If we can put that kind of hard work into that, then why can't we put that hard work into ourselves, making ourselves stronger mentally, and then ultimately changing ourselves into what we want to be versus
To
what we think people view us as.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
So as far
You
as
nailed it.
your program you have, where can people reach out to you to get more information on that, and kind of see some of the things that you do other than of course Instagram, which we'll link that down below.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. You're breaking up a little bit, but I think your question was how can people learn more about what I do? You can send me a DM on Instagram, and honestly, that is the only way right now. I have not advertised anything on purpose. I kind of accidentally fell into kind of an influx of women really wanting to work together, and I'm so flattered for that. But I have a waiting list at this point, and I'm really grateful for that. But I don't advertise. So my Instagram is the lykke Viking, which is Lykke Viking. And people can just find me there. I share my story really openly and genuinely. I don't hide from the fact that I talk a lot about the struggles, the trauma that I've experienced in life and how I've needed to overcome stuff. Um, so yeah, you'll find information about me mostly through my Instagram. But of course, if you're curious about what it might look like to work together, I can share more information. If somebody's curious, just send me a message on Instagram. That's the best way.
That the world only
Well, thank you.
conquered what is difficult for most of us, and are helping people out one person at a time, trying to create a better version of themselves, which is just amazing. We need more people like you in the world to try to help people, and and just from an outside perspective, I would imagine helps them, but I would imagine it helps you as well to a degree.
Oh, totally, totally, Joshua. I think helping people is just, I feel like I didn't know this about myself, but it is so purpose driven. And I didn't know how rewarding it would feel for me to see other women succeed and help them on that journey. Be there in the trenches with them and supporting them and guiding them and giving them the tough questions and challenging and just helping them has been everything. Um, so yeah, I feel super lucky to be able to do this, and it does help me quite a bit on my own journey and future evolution of who I am, who I'm growing into be. And yeah, it's fun, it's rewarding, it's purposeful, and I feel really lucky.
And I definitely appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to give us some insight on your background and what you do, because you know mental clarity and mental toughness is something that I think a lot of people struggle with. And with people like you trying to help people see that they can be a better version of who they are now, and help them find their true self, is just unbelievably amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's been a pleasure spending time with you, Joshua, and thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope that you have still much more success to come. It sounds like you know you're doing well, and that you've like you said, you've overcome a lot, and uh, I just think that's amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.